Well, yes. I'm sorry. Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
We're working out the chairs.
Al and Roy, yeah, we're working on the chairs. I usually don't sit, but I got like a tall one. I got a tall one today. So
We got a tall one. Well, I only like to
than
sit
that.
with the tall one. The other ones are too short. There's not. We need an in between.
Yeah, we need a between chair. That's for sure.
But I'm
Good.
still not sure why you're taller than me. Are you? Does he look
I'm
taller?
just
than me?
taller. I just am. Thank you.
See.
But he's also closer to the phone.
That's an optical illusion. So. Anyways.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hey, so today we're doing some flame working. We've thought we hadn't done one in a while, right? I guess
Well,
it's
yeah,
one of the
I
reasons,
guess,
and it's
and-
becoming a little more popular. Was another good reason for us to do it.
Right, and I think that, so we kind of decided that when we don't have specific suggestions or when we didn't quite get enough time to do any prep,
That's what you're saying this one.
kind of, yeah, then, maybe we'll just sort of hit on what we do in some of our classes. So we thought the flame working class,
Oh, that's a great idea.
yeah,
Yep.
specifically the borosilicate, we probably haven't done for a while. Okay, Kayla's
Oh,
going.
wow.
I mean, good, because we do kind of lose track of what we've done.
What we've
Seems
done,
like we've
what
done a
we've
lot
done.
of them, right?
A few.
So that's what mainly this is. I was just gonna make a borosilicate pendant, which happens to be one of the things we do in the Intro to Boro class, and thought you might enjoy watching that. And then we'll just kind of see how long it takes, and then if we have a little extra time, we might throw some flower petals on something or whatever, just to give you an idea of sort of what you can do.
We should probably explain first what borosilicate glass is.
Okay.
So, what is it?
It's a glass.
Good.
It's a glass. So for those of you that are fusers or that understand about that there are a few different coefficients of expansions in glass. So our popular fusible glasses are 90 or 96. It tends to be one or the other we use. The borosilicate has an expansion rate of 33. So it's a much harder glass. It takes more firepower to melt it. And so in that particular class I teach, we do use these bigger torches. So as opposed to the little tank of MAP gas with the little screw-on hothead, that's the torch we would use for the bead class. And I've done intros to those a few times. So, I'm happy to, I didn't happen to get one out right now. So, those little yellow tanks back there are the one. So, so there's just a few different things, but it does tend to lend itself nice to sculptural work. So in the class we do marbles and pendants and sometimes icicles and just a few things to sort of get your hands on the glass and start to get the feel of how it works and how it melts and how to manipulate it a little bit. So
why would a person choose borosilicate over the other glass?
I don't know.
What it has any
I don't really know.
other? You don't know?
Well, I think because of this, probably the sculptural aspect of it. It also, this glass comes in tubes, so that is what a lot of people will use to blow cups. And you get a little more experienced. You can you melt one end and you can expand and blow out the cup. There's some really intricate, beautiful things people do with the borosilicate in terms of blowing vessels. Happens to also be the glass of choice for people who make pipes and that kind of thing. So, yeah. So anyway, that's, I guess, kind of the reason behind it. I don't know for sure, but it's a sort of a different animal, so it really does get worked totally differently. So
you're saying it does take a different torch, so you want to just explain briefly, like, what's so special about this torch?
Well, this torch actually does have an oxygen and a gas feed. So unlike the hothead, that's just the one tank. So because of this torch having the oxygen feed along with the gas, it gets much hotter. So because of that low expansion rate, you do need a hotter torch to melt it. So the hothead alone would not do it. So that's kind of why you have this. And there are many different torches like this that have, the dual gases that would facilitate this glass and all kinds of others. This happens to be the Bethlehem Bravo that we actually haven't had very long. So I really enjoy it. It's really a nice torch.
But it is something available through Delphi?
It's available through Delphi, yeah. But there's many different manufacturers, like I said, so you'll get a look at how this works. But this one, I think one of my favorite things about this one is that I can turn it.
Yeah, and just
With
adjust
this
the angle
dial.
of the
Yeah,
flame,
so if I need to, be more straightforward, whereas some of the others you got to kind of yank here and adjust them. So it's really a really nice torch. I really am happy.
So
with it.
why is there like 4 different knobs on here?
The 4 different knobs are going to be portions of the flame. So these back here will be probably what I start with, probably what I'll do. I'll show you the bigger burner, but I probably won't use it. I don't know, maybe I will. Who knows? So these would be like a center fire and not a real big center fire. So if I need more firepower, then I would bring in these 2 knobs, and they would then light some outer rings that then would make that whole thing bigger. You'll see. I'll show you.
It probably has to do with scale then, like how big you're working
Yeah,
and how much
how
more
big,
heat
how fast you want to
need.
go. Yeah, exactly. So, okay.
All right, well.
Got any more questions?
No,
Those were pretty
I'll
good.
probably have some more,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
I'll just...
That was good.
We are going to put on some safety glasses, right? So, I
Yes.
mean, we have some glasses that do a variety of things. One thing in particular, the lenses of the glasses that we're wearing will reduce what's called the soda flare of the flame, which is the bright yellow color to the flame. Especially, you are going to use some color, right? Doesn't it show up a little bit more when you're using colored glass?
Different colors will make that brighter. Yeah. It's only, it's not the flame itself, it's when the glass is in the flame. So certain colors, especially like cobalt, it'll really get bright. What you were doing if you didn't have that didymium lens. So that didymium lens, all it really does is it just filters out that spectrum of light that causes that soda flare. And so it really is kind of magic. I don't know, Kaylee's got a lens, so maybe
I've got a lens. Yep.
you after you
Put it on over the phone.
Like I said, you got to wait till I get glass in the fire, because then you can't. Then you'll see it. Other than when you put the glass in, you're not going to see it. I mean, it's just going to be a flame.
So you lit the propane first.
I lit the gas first, and then I added in the oxygen. Yeah. And so just to show you the big fires you want, you're always going to do it in that sequence. So this is the outer ring, so I'm going to bring in the gas to that one, and then add in my oxygen from that, and you can see it just gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then when I decide I don't really need that much firepower, I'll take those back out, and then I'm back to sort of my neutral, smaller flame. And, it's up to you. Like I said, it's going to be something that can make it go faster. Sometimes I balance out how I think about it, because this particular flame uses a lot less oxygen. Oxygen is going to be your expense. Propane, the gas, we use propane here, and the gas, that lasts quite a while. But the oxygen you go through pretty quickly. So with this smaller flame, I'm not burning as much oxygen, but it's also taking me longer. So you kind of have to decide which you prefer. Do you prefer working like this, or do you want to get it done faster? And, I think it's probably 6 and a half dozen the other, but anyway, we'll start with this one.
The other thing we should probably mention too is that in the room that we're in, you guys probably can't tell very well, but there's a hood. We have a large hood here that is.
Oops, sorry guys.
Taking off any off gassing, what doesn't get quite burned up in the flame, so we're not seeing the room just.
Right, being saturated with the fumes, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so so you can see this. Ready? And now, don't put it up yet. Now, when I put this in here, you'll see that orange ball of light. Now, when Kaylee holds that up, I don't know, did it work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and the bigger and hotter you go, and then like Roy indicated, some of the colors actually will promote that soda flare to be much even brighter. And so it's just, like I say, it would get to the point where you wouldn't even be able to see what you're doing. So anyway, here we go with pendant. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So this is one of the things I do, and it's not, by the way, everything I do might be somewhat adjusted to and a little different than what other people do, but that's kind of what happens in flame working and lots of
Oh yeah,
crafts.
glass
and
blowing is the same way.
glass blowing. I mean, you learn a specific technique, and then as you get experience, you maybe find certain differences that help you, right? So this is not the norm. I can tell you what I'm doing right now. I don't think. But what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to, sometimes I would just use a longer rod to start with, but I just sort of connected the two, you know, just to give myself a little bit longer handle. And then what I'm going to do, as opposed to just heating the end of the rod and sort of trying to get a ball gather on the end, which means it kind of flops around and you're chasing it, I tend to like to do it this way, where I have a handle and I'm just going to do a big gather which is going to be the bulk of my pendant. So as I'm turning, I'm just giving just a ever bit, so slightly inward pressure, so that I'm getting this gather bigger and bigger. And like I said, this is just the way I like to do it, so I'm not chasing that ball that on the end of the rod that's flopping around as I'm trying to get the gather. If that makes sense to you guys. So what I'm going to do here is just sort of go as big as I feel like I want for my pendant, and then I will take the handle off.
So one thing, you know, I'm noticing is that, I mean, I don't know if you can tell this, but you're relatively close to the flame, right? I mean, your hands are not that far away. You're handling the glass, so the heat's not really traveling up the glass.
Correct.
And it's not really...
It's warm on my fingers, but because I'm pretty close with my right hand, but it's not uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can't feel it. I mean,
No. You know, that's what I can put my hands on both sides of this flame. I mean, it doesn't radiate heat. You know, that's what they say. Glass, a flame is a very efficient way to heat what's in it, but it's actually really inefficient to heat what's around it. So yeah, and it's really true. It's really true. You know what? I have hot glass in my hands, so you better watch out. No, it is, but it's interesting, it's true, because that's kind of what people, I think, and I only know that, and I tell that sometimes just because people can be real apprehensive, you know, it's a little bit intimidating. So as long as you know that the heat's not going to jump out and touch your hand, then it helps people feel a little bit, you know, a little bit better. So I just melted that end off because I figure I'm kind of at the point where I don't need to make it any bigger. So now I'm just going to melt that little nub down.
So I see you're kind of, well, I'm guessing here, right?
I'm
Using gravity, you're angling the rod
Absolutely.
so that
Yep.
the glass will flow where you want it to.
I was just trying to kind of round it up a little bit. And I'm still watching it because it still could be moving. So, you know, sometimes you keep turning even though you're out of the fire, just to sort of let it chill up a little bit. So what I'm doing is intentional also. I'm letting it chill up a little bit, which is also a very different situation than if we were using the 104 or the 90 or the 96. You've got to keep that warm the entire time. But this, I can let some heat come out of it. And what I want to do is, I let the heat come out of it, and now I'm going to go back in and try just to heat the bottom half, or this half that's this way back to the right. Because when I mash it down, I don't know, mashing's not a good word, but when I press it down, I don't want to necessarily press the handle down into the
Well, that is very good. I just experienced that yesterday with doing some glass blowing.
Yeah, it's tricky.
I got the punny right down into the glass, so I know exactly what she's talking about.
So anyway, I'm getting, and sometimes it takes me, this glass also is not, it's really interesting, it's not a glass that you can necessarily force what you're doing. So I'm really, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really not really pushing very hard at all. I just sort of let the weight of it sort of heat down, and then I'll go back in and heat it a little more. And what I'm trying to do is just kind of flatten it out. Like Kaylee gave you a shot of those pendants laying there. And there's like a million different ways to do pendants, you know. And for people that are familiar with a lot of Boro glass work and pendants and things, often the pendants are big and they're very bulbous. you know, they've got a huge lens on them. I don't really care for that so much, so that's why mine aren't that way. But certainly, like I said, you can make them however you want to. So I'm still putting some heat on the bottom, because I'm still just trying to get my disc a little bit flatter without forcing it, because I'm really trying not to push that handle down into what's ultimately going to be the lens of my pendant. It's going to be the front of it. So I'm trying to just give it a little bit of a melt.
And you are sort of controlling where you're heating it, right? I mean, the angle at which you're holding it,
Yeah.
you're trying to get just that bottom surface
Right.
and heat that up.
So it's pretty good. You know, I could do it a little bit more if you wanted to. So, but I am really trying to concentrate the heat on the bottom and not on the top where the handle is. But you got to be careful, because sometimes if you rotate too far, you know, I'll get my fingers in the flame. So you know what I mean? You do have to kind of pay attention and not get so mesmerized by what you're doing that, because you will feel that.
It's easy to get mesmerized.
It really is. You know, I've done it a million times just because I'm so busy trying to concentrate on where I'm trying to heat that, you know, I forget. You get reminded pretty quick, though. So, okay, this is frit. So I think, you know, all us glass people are kind of familiar with frit. This is borosilicate frit, however, so we can't just use any old frit. So this is the frit that's a 33. This is a mix that we kind of use. I dump in here after class when people have their own little specific colors that they've chosen. And I kind of like the mix. So, but you can use, you know, one color, two colors. You actually can get pretty strategic with actually using a stringer and doing some certain patterns and things. That's how they do those imploded flowers. I don't know if anybody's seen, but there's just some magnificent stuff that people do, and that's, you know, it's a lot more concentrated and, you know, technique driven when you start having to paint with the stringer. But for, like I said, for a beginning class, this really works really well, and people really like it. It really ends up turning out something. So I'm just putting a little pile there.
On your graphite paddle.
On my graphite paddle, yeah, you could use.
Yeah, some non-flammable surface,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So I noticed that you out of the fire a lot, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you that are used to, like, the risk of thermal shock is why I keep thinking, like, wow, why isn't that glass
it's
just
different.
thermal shock?
But you know, the misnomer is that you can't crack it.
Oh.
I think someone knows that too.
I know that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, for the most part, fine, you know, but if I were to, like, let this really cool for, like, 5 minutes and then shove it right back into the hot part of the fire, it'll probably crack. You know, but as long as there's a little heat in it, and as long as I'm, you know, kind of taking care of it, you're safe.
Yeah, I also, sorry, I didn't interrupt, but I also noticed you sometimes start out at the far end of the flame and then work close, it's kind of work your way down to where it's hotter.
Sometimes, yeah. But anyway, I'm just heating the bottom right now to get it soft. So all I'm gonna do is just go straight down on top of that frit and pick up whatever's stuck. So then I'm gonna go back in and give it some heat with the flame so that it will actually melt to the surface, so it's not just stuck on there. And then if I want, I can pick up some more if I want to. So if I want to pick up some more, I'll just go back over, pick up some more. And you can do that as many times as you want. We've even done it sometimes where we've kind of strategically put a ring of blue, a ring of red in the middle. I mean, actually, and then pick up the thread in a kind of a controlled way. You can do it. I mean, like I said, there's all kinds of things. Here's one of the things, too, that might be a little different than just what a lot of people would do at this point. So even though I don't like the great big fat lens, I do, however, sort of like the imploded look. Meaning, I really kind of want to get my color up into that clear so that there's some, yeah, if you want to take one and look at it from the side. But what I'm going to do that is it's the way I heat it. And the way I'm going to heat it is just sticking the side into the flame and the handle's not in the flame. So I'm going to kind of just hold it there, and then I'm going to turn a little bit. I and hold it there. And what this is doing, hopefully, is it's melting that clear glass, and it's going to flow around those frit crystals, as opposed to me just flattening it and calling it a day. I'm actually going to try to move that clear so that it will kind of come down around the color, and then it does kind of put it up into.
I mean, I can, from where I'm sitting, you can see that happening really quickly.
Can you?
Yeah, quite well, actually. It's fine.
I'm gonna come in your spot.
Yeah, I
Ron.
don't know how you can kind of see how the frit looks like it's kind of pushing up into the.
It's kind of hard to tell on
Yeah,
the
oh
phone.
my gosh, it's hard to tell even with the lens on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I get around, I'll show you, because it actually then when this actually kind of does what I want it to do, it is going to have a void hole up the middle. It, because the clear's coming down around and sort of creating that. Yeah, the only thing you kind of watch when you do this is what I in class I say, this is the part that you're kind of like watching paint dry, But it actually is doing something, but it's not, it's not real quick. So you do have to have a little bit of patience with it, which is difficult for me, but. So I'll show you here in a second. So we get this one side a little bit more. And so when I hold it up like that, can you see it now?
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Yeah, and when I turn it this way.
I'm gonna try to zoom in here.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So when I turn it this way, you can see how it has that big void up the middle. So, and it's also then gotten smaller, right? Because it's kind of come around like that. This, by the way, would be how I could make an imploded marble. I would just keep going, keep heating that clear, and it's going to eventually come around and seal. So, but if you're doing a pendant, I don't really want that. So then I'm going to come back to the bottom, and I'm going to put some heat just on the bottom. I'm always kind of careful to keep the heat off the handle, which is kind of the deal in the beginning for people. It's you're not controlling where you are in the flame, and then the handle gets loose, and then it gets melted. And so now that I've got the bottom, I'm going to put it back here, and I'm just going to push a little bit, kind of repeat the process I did to get it flat to begin with. So I still have a little bit of space there, so it'll probably take me a couple of more times to get it so that I can flatten it out just a little bit. Am I putting it where you can see it?
Mm-hmm.
So would you be so kind as to get me that big marble mold back there? I forgot to get it out. Sometimes it just helps kind of smooth out the front.
This marble mold.
Big old.
You want it right there?
Yeah, anywhere's fine.
And so the paddle and the mold are both made out of graphite, right? Is that because it can withstand the heat and?
Right. Yes.
But you do have to be careful because it gets hot, right?
The graphite
That
will
seems
get
obvious,
really
doesn't it?
hot. Once you put glass in it, it will really get hot. So what I've done now is I've kind of got that as flat as I want on the bottom, and I can still see my little color up in there. It's dark. So what I'm going to do now is I've got to put a handle on this so that I can take this handle off, because this handle is actually going to be where the lens is on my deal. So just got to get my little punchy melted here. Maybe a mug and water. Just grab that mug down. Thank you. Yeah, or I can just put this in. We can pour water in it, it'll make a neat sound. Nice. Sound effects. Okay, so the punchy is going to be what we call temporary. So I've heated the end, and now I'm waiting for that glow to sort of disappear. This is carrying plenty of heat. Once that glow is almost gone, I'm going to stick it on here and pull back. So I got it unstuck. But you have to be careful because it's not a great connection. It's designed to break off easily. So now I have to be careful about what I'm doing so I don't end up banging it on something by accident and having it in my lap. So now I'm going to take off this handle, like I told you, which will ultimately become the face of my pendant. So I'm going to take off as much as I can direct that flame there. And often you get kind of what looks like a Hershey's Kiss. And so if you wanted to, I could tweezer some of that off. You know, if I think I want that extra glass there, which I think I do, I'm just going to go ahead and keep the fire on it and rotate it around. I don't know if you can see, but it's definitely melting in.
It's definitely bigger.
Yeah. So now once it gets, you know, I kind of hold it up to kind of get a look at it. I'm going to kind of keep kind of going around it just to flow that just a little bit further down. And then, this is what I like to do with this little guy. I just sort of real easy, see where my fingers are not, I mean, it's just the weight of it. I'm not doing anything except just giving it a chance to sort of scoop the top out a little bit in case there was a little bit of a ridge or something. So then I'm going to add some heat to that just to sort of fire polish that. I don't know, this, like I said, this frit, can you see when you look at it? Doesn't it look cool? I mean, it's just like, you didn't really do anything.
Oh, yeah.
But they almost sort of look like flowers or something. Okay, so the next step is going to be the loop. So now that I need to do the loop, I'm going to put on actually the actual connection that will end up being what I turn into the loop. And then I got to take this, I'll show you because it gets a little confusing. So I kind of always look at them just to kind of see if there's some place that I think I might like the loop. And usually I always see something. So now to make this connection, because this is a permanent connection, I basically want to make sure both of these are molten when I touch them. So in the fire, I stay in the fire, and then I go right together like that, and then I come out of the fire for a second and just kind of wait for it to chill enough that I can move without losing it all over the place. So I just kind of hold that.
So you mentioned earlier that some of it you're looking at color, right? Seeing if there's still that orange glow in there, that gives you an idea of when it's getting stiff, but you can feel it too, right?
Yeah, I can feel it. And it won't glow. It'll still be movable and not be glowing. So you can't go by this glass. If it's not glowing, that doesn't mean you can touch it or move it yet. So here's how, then I'm going to knock this off. I'm going to knock this one off. That was my temporary spot. Oops, yep, that was not quite as temporary as it should have been. So before I do anything else, I'm going to melt this extra off. And then I'm going to put a punty on the other side. So really a temporary is supposed to be knock off real easy and not leave too much behind. But you can see it doesn't always work perfectly. And the way I do this pendant, because of having to melt that dome part, and it sort of sometimes gets stuck. That's not unusual, but you just want to make sure that you heat it off, and I just grab a little bits at a time, pouring it, and then so I just don't want anything really sharp back there, right? So once I get that going, then I might just put the back down there just to make sure. Okay, that's good. So now I need another handle. And so,
Definitely more difficult than working just off of a mandrel.
more steps.
Yes.
Sure. So this is just going to be my little handle that I can hold onto this while I melt this to make the loop. So this can sometimes be the clear. I mean, I make the loops clear a lot. Most of the time in class we'll make a clear loop, but here's a temporary again. Once again, I don't know if nobody notices, but it is like clockwork that I will, as soon as I know I'm going to be working totally on a connection that's not stable, meaning my punty that's my temporary, I always have one foot on the floor. And I already did it. I don't even remember doing it, but you know, because if it drops, that's your job. Your only job is to get out of the way until you can chase it down. So I am actually softening my flame a little bit, taking some of the oxygen out, and that's making it a little cooler. Because I'm now at this point when you do your loop, you're not melting to molten. You're just softening to stretch. So I'm just gonna soften it. It's a little easier to do if I'm not gonna. So that like inch and a half, top of that inch and a half from the top of the pendant out. And then I come up, straight up usually, and I pull up, and then move it around. And sometimes I'll touch it, but lately I haven't. I just stop here, and then I'll go back in and melt this off. Probably put my oxygen back down a little bit because I want my heat back. Melt this off right here. And then I will use my tweezers to bend that around. So once again, we're just softening. We don't want to turn it molten. We won't be able to control it.
So I'm sorry, you said you were turning the oxygen down, right? Is that
Taking some of the oxygen out, which makes it more of a gas fire, which makes it cooler than if the oxygen was up hotter, right? The oxygen is an accelerator. So when I take the oxygen out like this, you can see my flame, my gas flame gets longer. So that basically tells me I'm working in a reduction fire. So that's really what I want, because I don't, when it's like this, and if you hear it hissing a little bit, it's hotter. And so hotter often is really good, but sometimes when you're doing certain things, you want to kind of take it out a little bit. So I just want to get these two. So one of the things about the Boro too is that it really doesn't like to just be sitting on itself. So whenever you bend something around and attach it, or whenever you put a fin on, or you know, whatever, you have to melt it in. So it can't just sit there and touch. So when it melts in, often it starts to close up. So you kind of have to be a little bit ready with something to open it back up. But it's real important that you get it to flow. Now it's hard for you to see this, but now it's sort of all melted in. You can kind of see it's not just sitting there, right? So once you've done that, I mean, I sometimes, depending on how you have to, how much you mess around with your loop and all, sometimes it might get a little crooked, but you can then heat it and straighten it back up if you want. Basically, that one looks pretty good. I did get the ring. Just be careful. Bang it on it.
Don't bang on anything, I got it.
I
know,
almost
okay.
got these, but I didn't think I needed. Okay. And then I need to probably just throw it in the can down there if you want. So this glass should also be annealed like, you know, any kind of other glass. It's a little different process. I can batch anneal things later. This is our annealing bubbles.
Yep.
And they work really well because when I put it down in there, it'll insulate and keep it from cooling too quickly. And then, you know, the residual heat from the piece itself will allow it to cool slowly, and then I can batch anneal later. I tend to do this into, see how that was a good one. See how easy that came off?
So one thing I mean,
Now I just want to heal this up real quick. Just that little nub where it was needs a little bit of love down.
so I was going to say one thing I think, it's hard to tell, but the glass is still really hot, even though it's not glowing, and you've been out of the flame, and
Yeah,
It does look really cool, Val.
it's really hot
Yeah,
still.
that's
Yeah, you
nice
guys got to
one.
be careful.
You should-
Okay, so then there it goes down in the dude.
Just put it on your head.
That's not funny. This is so fun. I don't have an Etsy. Okay, well that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay,
Yeah, that was great.
Let's save that other maybe for some other. Yeah, because I
Okay.
think that would be fun. Maybe we'll throw a couple of these
Yeah,
Here's a teaser of what we're talking about, everybody.
yeah, the little flowers.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Well, so let us know if you have suggestions. I mean, I know we have a couple, and we're not disregarding
Yeah, we're
them,
not
but it was going to
ignoring
take a
everybody,
little
but-
more prep than
yeah.
we had for this one. So that's why we said we'll probably start putting in our class stuff here and there when we're not sure. But we do really want to hear what you want to say.
So we definitely do. So yeah, we've been, one of the nice things about working in the store here is we hear a lot of nice comments from people that watch your videos
And we're not
tell us
married.
how much
We never have been.
Was that the newest one?
That was what someone said
You and I
yesterday.
both
Just
did that
yesterday,
one.
someone said, I thought you guys were married. But I don't know what she acts like.
It's just all.
So it's all good. But we appreciate you guys watching, and again, if you have ideas or comments, please reach out to us. You can always email us at facebook@delphiglass.com, or you can message us on Instagram.
Yeah, we
Facebook.
got YouTube. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the YouTube channel. So
Caleb, just too, is that a good place for people to go? Because I'm constantly, when we
That's what I was
get
thinking.
asked questions, and I know that we did a pretty extensive video on it, I always feel like they could go, and I don't really know. That's what I say. Go-
All of the videos are on both Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
So they are in both places.
Okay.
Sometimes it's easier on YouTube because you can sort by craft, or I have a Facebook Live channel specifically. So
Okay.
there's ways to find them.
Yeah. Good. Thanks.
well, thanks for watching, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks, I think.